back a touch. Not back, just off. I'm recognizing that it's still very easy to be triggered, and that's not a good or a bad thing. That's not a right or a wrong thing. Just acknowledging that right now is a triggering time. The energy feels very pokey proddy to me. It's a lot of prodding. Aren't you gonna? Why don't you? I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about the energy. I mean, maybe the way that broader society portrays things to us, and specifically Western American society, because that's the closest influence for me. But that influence specifically is interesting and has become so widespread because it has this desire to invade. It has this invasive quality to it. American energy is invasive. It's penetrative. It wants to insert itself. And I have to, again, admit and acknowledge that that is something that I have been conditioned into also, is to carry forth those qualities. Fortunately for me, or just as fortunately for me, what helps me is that at least as a female-born person, I have also been conditioned the other way. I've been given the contradictory conditioning of the American masculine domination that is, get yourself in there, get your foot in the door, penetrate, insert yourself, make it happen, make change, be effective, make people feel you, and the female-born conditioning that says do none of those things. Submit, receive instruction, follow instruction, serve, take care of. So at least receiving the contradictory programming has helped me not to go full force in either direction, but to feel the influence of both, to feel this push and pull internally of this contradictory conditioning. And find a place in myself. I was going to say position, but really the position is of no position. It is of no position whatsoever. Neither side. Neutrality. The 0 point. Stillness. And in this passionate neutrality, which sounds like a contradiction, but is a beautiful little paradox. In this passionate neutrality, I find the aliveness of peace and the peace of aliveness. I find that this is not contradictory, that the allowance of all, that radical inclusion, is actually peace for me. And I think that is the reality of the nature of experiencing peace. Peace is just not fighting. Peace is not being at war with anything. But I still regularly find myself at war. I do. Because I have been trained for war. And this is what ego does. In the misperception of intense sensation as some sort of assault or violation. And being alive, particularly in a human body, being alive in this world is intense. You feel the vulnerability of it, and you can't get away from it. And so it makes sense. It's natural that this mechanism would have developed, all because of this misunderstanding that the receiving of sensation, the experiencing of vulnerability, of insecurity, of nakedness, was a bad thing, was a dangerous thing. The mistaken conclusion that experiencing insecurity meant something, meant that you were insecure. And that misunderstanding, that conclusion, creates a reaction against the experience of sensation, which is all life. Perceiving that the experience of insecurity means that you are insecure creates the ego. This imaginary protective mechanism. This layer, this shell that then begins accumulating as an act of defense against, a way to armor you against the experience of the sensation of insecurity or vulnerability. And I still see it in myself. I still experience it. This inclination to make war against what is, because of the misunderstanding and thinking that what is making war against me, what is violating me, is attacking me, is inserting itself into me, when the reality is I am experiencing, I am receiving. That is what I am. I am that. And that's not a problem, because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't do any harm to me. There is no damaging. So then it's not a problem. And it doesn't need to be fixed. We don't need a solution for insecurity, when insecurity doesn't mean anything and isn't an issue, isn't isn't something that isn't supposed to be happening. That is just the feeling of everything flowing through you. And that is the way it works. That is natural. I don't know what I'm really trying to say. I don't know that I'm really trying to say anything. This is a conversation with myself. And a reminder to myself that nothing is at war with me, even when it says that it is. Even when there are, what might be people or programming or whatever that appear to explicitly state or behave as though they are coming after me. I only experience war when I am making it. That's the reality. If I fight, then I cover up peace. If others are fighting, it does nothing to my experience of peace. It is always and only ever my choice of whether or not I am going to also pick up a weapon in this moment. And it's moment to moment. And the fact that any other person is at this moment waging a war does not mean that they cannot also, at any moment, simply stop. They can simply stop. And their choice to make war is not a failure any more than mine is. It's just a habit, the same that mine is. So my choice, this is a reminder to the ego, my choice not to fight and to be at peace does not make my experience superior. It certainly doesn't make me superior. My choosing not to wage war is not some enlightened choice in the way that it reveals me to be more wise or more aware or more of anything. It is simply a choice. That too does not mean anything. The war making isn't wrong, and it isn't worse. It is an experience. It is something we all get to play with. And when I align with judgments of those making war, what am I doing? What am I doing, really? Except waging my own subtle war against them. That's not peace either. And again, it is to realize simply that this is what the mind does. This is simply what the mind does. This is simply what ego does, specifically, as a mechanism of the mind. A sort of protective mechanism, an overactive, unnecessary defense mechanism. It is not a problem. It is just an experience. And it isn't going to change. Ego is not going to stop waging war against things. what I can do is witness when it is doing that and step back just enough not to make it personal, not to make it my war. I can just see the mind is doing this thing again that it does where it resists. The mind resists. It is in the nature of the mind to find ways to resist. This is habitually what it does. And resisting the mind's resistance is just an investment in it. It's not actually mine. It's not actually my resistance. It is an investing in what the mind is doing. An identification with what the mind is doing. The mind is just doing this. That's just happening. It's okay. I could no sooner stop a hurricane than end the resistance of the mind. And just like stopping a hurricane, I have no need to do that. There is no need to do that. There's no need. It's fine. It's okay. Again, the mind in its habitual resistance sees resistance as something that it needs to resist. That's fine. That is really, really fine. As often as possible, I can notice that. I can let hurricanes happen and just not tangle myself up in them trying to stop them. Because they don't need to stop. Again, that is just a habitual, a long-standing, unconscious belief that the resistance of the mind is something that needs to change, that war is something that needs to change. The belief that war is something that needs to stop just perpetuates war. It really does nothing. You cannot fight for peace. That doesn't work. If you are fighting, you are fighting. Peace is not the product of war. War is. More war. Whatever you put in is what you get out. Which is why also if you put in the work, you will get more work. You will make more work. And that's not a problem either. None of it is bad. None of it is something that shouldn't be happening. All of this is stuff we get to enjoy and experience. None of it means anything. None of it really matters. It's more a case of if you get tired of that, if you get bored of the work, if you get bored of the war, then you also have the choice to stop. You can also just put that down. You can build as many castles in the sand as you want. And when you're just done, when you're just tired of that experience, you can stop. It's not a big deal. So I'm playing more with this notion of where I used to say we're both right. And I'm just playing with this. I'm not saying anything is a certain way. Instead of saying we're both right, I just say nobody's right. Because there's nothing to be right about, really. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong, because there just isn't any of that. There are no hills we need to die on, because really there are no hills. Really, this landscape is really just flat. And I know that makes it sound boring, but that doesn't mean that there aren't places to explore. There is this infinite, diverse landscape still to explore. It's just that there is no superior position versus inferior position. There's no hierarchy. There's no, greater awareness, because I can see more clearly because I have the spot on the hill, right? So of course I can see more clearly. That's kind of what makes it a hill, is this feeling that you know better, right? And you know better because you can see what somebody else can't, and you're like, I'm up here seeing. Well, no, we're all just where we are, seeing what we see. And what you see is what you see. It's there. So there is no debate to be had. There's no argument to have. All of it is fine. You are where you are. That's great. Nobody needs to plant their flag and claim this land for the Queen. We don't need to die here. We don't need to be in opposition. But if we find ourselves there, if I find myself there, if I find myself making opponents who know less than I do, right? Who have less awareness, I know how easy it is to do. If I find myself there, I would like to remember that this is the habitual behavior of the mind. It makes enemies, it makes opponents, it creates opposition. It shifts the landscape so that there appear to be hills and valleys. It wants to tell me that I have the superior or the inferior position, that I should make changes to gain the tactical advantage. I just want to remember that this is what the mind does. Not so I can change it. Not so I can change it. Not so I can be in some better place. Really not for any reason at all. I'm searching there. Other than perhaps that I really want to let everything be as it is. I want to let everything be as it is. And that does mean seeing everything as it is, so that I can let it be more deliberately, more intentionally, more consciously. I want to deliberately let everything be as it is. So there is some great desire there to see it clearly, but not so that I can position myself advantageously, so that I can just open. So that I can just open. so that I can accept it more fully. The more that I see, the more that I can accept and allow. And that is the source of my satisfaction. The source of my satisfaction is allowance, is acceptance. That has become quite clear. It's becoming more clear. That is the source of my satisfaction, my joy, my peace, is in the allowance of what is to be as it is. And so then there is the desire in me to know what is, so that I have greater satisfaction in allowing it. But I can't force it. It has to reveal itself at the pace that it chooses to, in the way that it chooses to. So then it returns to just what is here right now. What is in this moment revealing itself to me? And as much or as little as it appears to be, that is what I am accepting. That is what I am witnessing. That is what I'm allowing. And I'm doing it for no other reason than it feels good. But I'm also recognizing that feeling bad isn't bad. If it could even be called bad. Feeling other than this isn't bad. And I don't need to change it. I don't need to fight against it. Not in myself and not in anyone else. If other people experience happiness, unhappiness, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, sickness, health, poverty, wealth, wherever they are in experience, I don't need to change it. It doesn't need to change. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing right with it. It is good in a much deeper way. It is right in a much deeper way, but the mind struggles with those words. It wants them to mean other things, and so it may just be easier for me to put them down, at least for a while. Anyway, I have felt this pull in myself, and so I just, as always, this is a reminder to myself, I have felt the pull back into conflict, into opposition, into the making of right and wrong, and the positioning of myself, which is always, taking a position is always against. It's always against or for, and if you're for something, you're against something else. So taking a position is to, pick a side in a battle. And I have feelings about things, but that doesn't make me right or wrong, or someone else right or wrong. All of that is allowed to change. Really, everything simply is as it is. And that is okay. And I feel the most peace, the greatest peace, and the greatest aliveness. I feel the most fully myself, I guess, when I am not on a side. When I say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a resolution. I don't have an answer. And I don't need one. I'm not reaching for one. I'm not seeking one. I'm just here, receiving what is. opening, experiencing, allowing, accepting. Not making others right or wrong, anything that they're doing. And when I witness opposition, I see that it is the stance of the mind. When I feel that opposition in me, I don't take up opposition against it. That would just be another position. I just see that the mind is taking a place, picking a place. It is the mind that is resisting, and that's not a problem either. There's nothing wrong with that. That will keep happening. And everything is really, really, really okay. I gotta go inside now, but yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I love you. Take it easy.